Hi guys, I'm Echo. As I promised a few days ago, today I will show you all the tools that VRCLens have to offer. This video can sound a little bit unnecessary. I mean, VRCLens is pretty simple to use, isn't it? Like you turn it on, you turn on the VRChat camera, you touch the focus point, and that's it. But if you take a minute to check the menu, it's quite cumbersome. Why? Because it's not only focus, aperture, or zoom. VRCLens has a lot of different tools. So if you got VRCLens, it's because you really want to use every single option and make the most astonishing picture ever made by a VRChat user. I've been using VRCLens for over 3 years already, and with all my experience, I already know how and when to use each of the tools. But what if you don't want to just try and error each tool, or if you even don't want to watch this video at all? Well, I'm quite concerned by the number of people who doesn't know about this, but if you take a minute and you read the VRCLens page on Gumroad, you will find out a section called How to Install and Use. You will find a Google Doc with the tutorial to add VRCLens to your avatar and the explanation of everything. So, since this Google Doc exists, I'm gonna make you a favor and I'm gonna put it on the screen for the rest of the video so you can read it and learn how to use VRCLens, and that's it. You're welcome. Nah, just kidding. This document is way outdated. It is good to remember a few things, but over time, VRCLens added and removed different stuff, so yeah. Keep watching this video. So, with nothing more to say, let's dive into all the menus of VRCLens. Let's start with the basic menu. Here you will find the enable and disable button, the zoom dial, and a few other menus. So let's move forward to the aperture menu. In this menu, obviously, you will find all the aperture parameters. You will find something like the increase and decrease button that for some reason doesn't work. I've been trying to use it more than a time and it never works. DOF mode, or depth of field mode, will turn on and off the blurry background effect. But if you activate it one more time, you will realize that on the screen DEP appears. This will keep the consistency between the focal lengths based on, for example, 50mm. The next one is AV dial. It's pretty obvious. It's the dial to change the aperture from 1.4 to f22 in full frame. Sensor type. This menu lets you change the sensor type of VRCLens, but I don't know how useful it is because yes, it allows you to change the size of the sensor like to full frame, FPSC, MFT, and so on. But in real life, with a smaller sensor, you get more zoom, but you lose quality. Here you can see the conversion in the focal length, but you don't lose quality. So I guess it is in case if you prefer to take pictures simulating the focal length of your real-life camera. I don't know, but hey, the option is there. Bokeh shape. Pretty simple. It changed the bokeh shape of the circle of confusion. Or in other words, change the shape of the unfocused objects such as light and such when you use wide apertures. And that's it. Let's go back to the main menu and check the next one. Focus. The first one is manual focus dial. It's obvious too. It allows you to change the focus distance at the same way you move the lens dial to change the focus distance in real life. At the moment you use it, it will show you a red outline where the focus distance is. To turn it off, just put the dial at 0%. Autofocus. Like before, I guess it's supposed to turn it on and turn it off the autofocus, but for me, it never works. With the manual focus dial, you can turn it off or turn it off, as we saw before, but for some reason, this doesn't work, so I don't know why it's there. Avatar AF. This one works, and it's pretty cool. You have two options. With the white icon on the viewfinder, it will put the focus as soon as any avatar touches the focus point. With the yellow icon, it would focus to you, even if you are out of the frame. Move focus. This allows you to move the focus point, but in VR, you change the focus point just touching the screen. So this is an option for desktop users. Let's go to the display menu. You will find different options to show more information on the VRCLens viewfinder. Virtual horizon. It shows you the virtual horizon to know the degrees of your camera, to know if it's fully straight, crooked, and such. I always use it as on. The grid. Not much to say here. It's just turning on and off the grid. Always on for me. Show, hide. Obvious, it hide or show all the information at once. Useful to quickly check like the entire frame of your picture without turning every option on and off. Monitor and move HUD. As you can see here, monitor and move HUD comes with a VR icon. This means it's just for VR users. It doesn't work on desktop. Monitors allow you to put the VRCLens viewfinder on the HUD, and move HUD allows you to move the position of the screen. Focus picking. It changed the color of the focus line at the moment to use the manual focus. Now let's move to the next menu, Advanced. Quick selfie. Pretty simple. It puts the camera in front of you, and if you hold the button, it would move the camera far and far. Pretty useful for self-portrait, for videos and such. Drop. This is the best. It's literally a tripod. If you need to attach the camera somewhere, just click on drop and problem solved. Movie mode. This is only for VR users. If you ever tried to record a video or do a stream, probably you already know that the stream mode on the VRChat camera, it projects the view of the camera to your screen, so you can capture it with OBS and such. VRCLens has its own way to do it, so you don't need to use VRCLens and the VRChat camera to stream the game to your screen, saving performance. And that's it. Time to move to Aperture. EV dial. You can adjust the exposure point to get the desired brightness from -4 to 4 with the 1/3 step in between. Auto exposure. This option has 3 different states that you can check on the viewfinder. No icon means exposure off, and it will use the values on the dial. White icon is auto exposure. It will override the dial and it will manage the exposure by its own. And the yellow icon, it will lock the current value used on the auto exposure. To use the auto exposure options, I recommend you to set up the dial at 50%, the equivalent of 0 for better result. Picture style. These options add something like filters, like presets, and I'm not a big fan of it because you can reach the exact same result with Lightroom in post-production. White balance. Finally, some buttons that actually works properly. Anyways, Not much to say. It helps you to correct the white balance of your scene. More cold, more warm, and to reset it. Let's go back to the advanced menus now. And let's go to extra menu. This one is interesting. Avatar drop. This is more focused on VR again. It will attach the camera to your avatar position, independent of where the camera is. It will move while you're moving too. It's like the built-in option on the VRChat camera. 3D mode! This mode is insanely cool. It's allowed you to take side-by-side pictures. I used to use this technique at college, allowing you to take picture or record videos with depth through the stereoscopic technique. Instead to take a picture and move by your own and take another picture and then go to Photoshop and paste it together to make the stereoscopic effect. With this tool, this picture is already done. We will find another dial for zoom, and we will find mount swap, quite useless on desktop, but pretty useful in VR mode. It's allowed you to use the camera on your hand or change it to the position assigned for desktop at the moment to set up VRCLens. Hide lens. It hides the 3D model, so it's like an invisible camera. We will find a shortcut to the Aperture menu that we already checked, and to finish the advanced menu, there's a shortcut to the focus menu that we already checked. So now, let's go back to the main menu to check the next one. Settings. We will find a lot of different shortcuts to different menus that we already checked, like zoom, aperture, picture style, and display. We already checked those menus, so no need to check it again. Let's move then to stabilize. This option has 3 different states too. White icon, it adds stabilization to reduce the shake and make everything smoother. The yellow icon eliminates the camera tilt, so it's similar to use a gimbal. And the icons, obviously, stabilization off. Way too shaky. Portrait. Not much to say, allowing you to shoot on horizontal or vertical mode. Useful for record content like TikToks or take portraits. Filters. The normal one, it means all the filters are off. Depth cool, showing the focused object in color and the rest on black and white. Pretty cool. Depth cute, show everything with a pink degraded color and the subject on focus looks normal. Spotlight shows everything with a white filter and the subject looks normal, so I guess it's trying to simulate a spotlight effect. Green and black back, nothing to explain. Green or blue background for chromas. Now let's move into drone. Let's start with the drop option. Simple, it draws the camera on the world as a tripod. We already checked that one. Hand rotate. It allows you to rotate the camera based on your hand rotation. I use this a lot because it's easier to move the camera in VR. Change angle. It allows you to rotate the camera with the menu as the same as the hand rotate, but with a menu. Move camera. This allows you to move the camera through the space. Forward, backward, left and right. But there is a way to move the camera up and down while using the menu. With the left or right hand gun, the camera will move up and down instead of forward and backward. It's a little bit tricky and complicated to dominate, but with enough practice you can do pretty amazing shots controlling the drone. Drone speed. This is pretty obvious. More or less speed to the camera. Let's go back to track self. If we turn on the option track self, it will track our eyes. Pretty similar to the built-in option in the VRChat camera, but we can tweak it a little bit. Look at face, it's obvious. It tracks our face, putting the pivot on our eyes. The next one is look at feet. This one will use our feet for the tracking pivot. Kinda weird to show our feet, but there is a reason for it. It will use the feet as the pivot, but that doesn't mean that we want to show our feet. Because, look up. This will move the camera view more up, so we can choose, for example, track our feet, but show our face. And look down is the same as before, but moving the camera down. And finally, the last menu, tracking. Drop. We already checked this one 2 times already. Track self, a shortcut to the track self option that follow your eyes. Smoothing, it adds smooth to the camera movement. Drop pivot. This thing is really cool. It will drop a pivot point that the camera can follow, a tracking point for the camera movement. If you drop it, you will see a green point on the world. That is our new tracking pivot. The camera will move depending on where the pivot is. The number of the distance of the pivot is in relation to the player. Track pivot. It's the toggle to turn on and off the tracking to the pivot point. So you can, for example, track the pivot point and then turn it off to back again to your eyes and move the camera freely, and then turn it again without losing the position of the pivot point. Move pivot. It allows you to move the pivot position in the world. And the final option is vertical lock. If you are using the tracking self option or you are tracking a pivot point, it will block the vertical rotation. So it will only rotate on an horizontal way. Pretty similar to the option that you can find on the VRChat camera. And that's all! It was a long journey through VRCLens. We checked all the menus and options, but we are not done yet. Because let's check a few issues and advices. At the moment to use VRCLens on desktop, when I turn it on, I don't see the viewfinder on the top of the screen. It shows me all on the full screen and I can see the information. This is because probably you are running the game on full screen mode instead to use it on Windows mode. Just press Alt-Enter to exit the full screen mode and play VRChat in Windows mode. Problem solved. VRCLens crashes my game every time I want to take a picture, even if I'm using the lowest performance settings. This works for me, and what I do is change the resolution of the headset through SteamVR. You will see everything pixelated and ugly, but the picture will still look good and the game shouldn't crash. At least in my case, that helps. VRCLens doesn't work in the VRChat camera, it shows the regular view. Okay, this is a pretty common issue. There are 3 ways to fix it. The first one is maybe on the VRChat camera, you need to reset the zoom. And with that, problem solved. The second way to fix it is maybe by accident you leave the direct cast on the movie mode. just turn it off. That like bypass the VRChat camera and it shows you the different views. So it's simple as just turn it off. And the third one is the most uncommon problem, and it's world incompatibility. Sometimes some worlds have shader incompatibility with VRCLens, making VRCLens useless. This is a constant fixed issue by Hirabiki, and nowadays is extremely uncommon. But there's still a small amount of world with this issue. Oh, by the way, there's one more thing. Sometimes VRCLens just doesn't load properly. A good way to fix it is just reloading the avatar or rejoining the world. And a little curiosity. Have you ever wondered why VRCLens or any other camera like VRCHAT 2 and such doesn't come with shutter speed or motion blur? To answer this question, I got contact with Hirabiki on Discord, the author of VRCLens, and I decided to ask them why nobody added motion blur or shutter speed to any type of camera. And they replied, in basic terms, to get this option, we need to get access to the motion vector buffer. And the only way to do it is with a component called post-processing. If you know a little bit about work creation, probably you already heard about post-processing. And of course, VRChat Avatar doesn't have access to the post-processing. Probably because it's unnecessary and it will break a bunch of stuff. Technically, it's a VRChat limitation. So, a possible solution, it's VRChat developing its own component, similar to Fishbone from stop people using dynamic bones. Something like, I don't know, VRC motion blur or something like that. So people can add this to their own cameras and reach this effect. Or add the option to the VRChat menu as another graphic setting, so you can get affected by different cameras or not. Technically, there's another solution, that it's allowing you to the users to add the post-processing component onto the avatars. But probably this is not a good idea because it can break a lot of stuff related with worlds. And the most probably option, it can be that VRChat add the motion blur into the built-in camera. But the problem with this idea is it will be compatible only with the VRChat camera, not other third-party cameras. So yeah, it can be a way to do it, but not compatible with VRCLens, VRCHAT 2 and such. Let's see if at some point VRChat decides to find a way to add motion blur to avatars cameras, instead to need to people add motion blur per world. Maybe, as I said before, VRChat can make its own solution like VRC motion blur or something. It can be a really good idea. And finally, that's all. We are finally done. This video has been pretty long, but we checked all the stuff related with VRCLens. Now it's just time for you to test it, practice, and take the advantage of the VRCLens tools. If you find this video useful, please give me a thumbs up and comment one other kind of content would you like to see here. Feel free to join my VR photography VRChat group and Discord server, where you can find more tips, share your work, get some feedback, ask for advices, and a lot more. Link onto the description. With nothing more to say, hi guys. I'm recording this post-editing the video because a few people asking me to do it, so I decided to do it. For the people doesn't know, a few weeks ago I decided to make a Patreon. So if at some point you feel grateful enough for this content, because it took a lot of time to do for me in between research, editing, scripting, editing, recording, taking the picture, feel free to support me there. You will find different tier lists that I recommend you to use the cheapest one, because the other one I think is a little bit unnecessary, but I had to add a few more if you feel grateful enough. Over there you will find different videos that I don't post on YouTube, like tutorials, process of my pictures, showing you what I do on Lightroom, what I do in Photoshop, because I use both, layers, effect, and all the stuff that I do for my VRChat pictures. Sometimes even I'm gonna upload videos related with real life photography. So yeah, feel free to join me. You are gonna keep seeing all this content on YouTube for free. The other one is just if you want a little extra content, feel free to do it. And thank you so much for the support. Thank you for the messages on Discord. People are still asking me why it takes me so much to make videos, and it's because I have a job. I work on 2 or 3 different projects related with VR, with photography, mixing both. So yeah, I'm a really busy person, I'm sorry. But now I'm more free now, so now I can go back to YouTube and I will try to make content more often. So yeah, with nothing more to say, keep learning, keep practicing, and I hope to see you in the other reality.